Hello again and welcome to the Franchise Everything podcast, where we talk about everything and anything franchising. Today we're with JD, John Dwyer, who is the Institute of Wow marketing genius. JD, how you doing?
Thank you very much. Could you underline that genius?
Absolutely. Well, it'll be done.
Would there be a super on the screen that comes out? Maybe
no,
not.
probably
Okay,
not.
fair
Too much editing involved in that.
enough.
We're going to talk about marketing today, and it's the topic of today is exploding your franchise store sales with incentive-based marketing, which is you are all about incentive-based marketing. Of course, you want to explode your franchise owner store sales. In this podcast you're about to watch or listen to, you can contact JD directly to find out how you can do it as well at theinstituteofwow.com/franchise.
Yep.
So let's start with that. What is incentive-based marketing? Because everyone wants to explode their franchisee store sales.
Yep, of course. I haven't met a franchisee yet. They go, oh, no, we don't need any more sales.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Incentive-based marketing, I guess, as it infers, is all about giving someone a reward, a gift, an incentive for, buying your product. And the main aim of giving them an incentive, of course, is to build sales, but, it's to take their eyes off the price. And, the moment that you start concentrating on price, then it's a race to the bottom, because the guy who's your competitor down the road is going to match that pretty easily.
So why are we so focused on price? So why I know you see it all. Everything is always price, percentage off.
Yep.
Where's that come from? You think? What's the drive?
Easy, because it's easy. I mean, really, I hope whoever's watching this takes it the right way. But when you became a good technician of whatever you do, whether it's an air conditioning or doctor or dentist, you've been to university or technical college or whatever it might be, and you've come out with a piece of paper that says you've got the qualifications. But when I talk to business owners, and a lot of them are, very, very skilled technicians, like might be electrician or plumber or builder, they say they know nothing about marketing. Essentially, the thing that they need probably most in their business, and that is marketing skills, they've never been taught that whatsoever. So, our role over the years has been to actually take that headache away from them and give them a packaged idea, which they just set and forget. And that's where we've made our money, because we create something that they just turn the key on. But yeah, I think very few people in business have ever used. In fact, our statistics are 97% of all business owners have never used an incentive. They just drop their prices all the time.
What are some good examples of it that you see, even currently in the marketplace, of incentive-based marketing that's still happening out there?
Look, Harvey Norman does a good job with 2 or 3 years interest-free. And when they came out with that, which was probably a dozen or more years ago now, they probably had a 6-month window where no one else, everyone does it now. So the thing is that what you want to do is to come up with an incentive that's very hard to duplicate. And that is hard, okay? And that's where, without doing that too much, that's where we come in. We tend to provide people with incentives that are very difficult to duplicate, because, 3 years interest-free now is everyone uses it.
So I know some of your incentives that you don't. Tell me about, and I'll spot some that I can remember off the top of my head. Tell me about the turf incentive, because that's a very different one, but it's really, because I think the key here is to give people some practical ideas about how they might be able to implement it, whether they're a big ticket item or a small ticket item.
No, and I'm glad you asked. As you said, the idea is to give people. I live to give.
Yes,
and
of course.
So therefore, that's why I'm here. Get a bit emotional, but the turf farm one, that's really interesting. I was doing a song and dance seminar and about incentive-based marketing, and this guy comes at the end of it and says to me, "Look, I've got a turf farm on the Gold Coast, about halfway up the Tamborine Mountains." I said, "Okay, right now," and he said, "I've got about 6 kilometres of turf. I've got to move because we're coming into the new season. I've got to basically get rid of it and replant for the new season." I said, "Okay," and he said, "So what can you suggest?" I said, "Okay, well, I'll have a meeting with you throughout the week," which I did. And when I got there, his turf farm went on and on and on for miles. And I said to him, "Listen, who's your target audience?" And he said, "Well, not mum and dads, because they would buy just a front yard and backyard worth of grass." He said,
So it wouldn't get through enough volume.
Exactly. He said, "Landscapers." I said, "Okay." I said, "Right, well, let's just think about an incentive for landscapers. What do you think landscapers like?" And he said, "I don't know, you tell me." I said, "Beer. They love beer." And he went, "Right, okay." And I said, "Normally a landscaper would probably buy 4X or 2Es. Why don't we up the ante and give them a Crown Lager, a box of Crown Lager for every home's worth of grass they buy from you, which would be about 500 square metres." He said, "Oh, do you think it would work?" I said, "I don't know. I reckon it's worth a chance. It's a pretty good Happy Meal toy." So we rented a list, as you can still do today, by the way. You can rent a list from a list broker, and we sent out to the Brisbane and Gold Coast area a letter because landscape is not renowned for being on the computer too often, right?
Yep. Well, they're all too busy out on the tools.
You got it. And so therefore we sent out a letter, and the letter basically had a picture of a carton of Crown Lager, and it said to them, we don't know where you get your turf from, but you should get it from us in the future, because we are going to give you a carton of Crown Lager, the expensive beer that you probably wouldn't drink. We're going to give that to you for every home's worth of grass. 6 days into it, he rings me up, and it's that call that when you're in any business, you get a call from a client who says, we've got a problem. We go, no, what's his JD? I've got a problem. I said, oh, what is it? He goes, we don't have any more grass. I said, what? He said, it's gone nuts. He said, as it's turned out, I never sent out 500 letters. I only sent out 250, because he said, I thought you were a bit ambitious. And he said, I'm glad I did, because we're out of turf. I went, oh, my God. He said, we're buying turf from other turf farms to keep up with the demand for the beer. And he said he was up 40% straight away. And, of course, this was a few years ago. He just does it every time the new season comes.
So it's continued along.
Well, that's the thing, is that, McDonald's is successful, and all of the franchises that you guys are involved are successful because the first one worked, and then they just built more. Well, if you come across a good idea like this, just milk the daylights out of it. Keep doing it. No need to come up with something new. And that's what he does every year now. He just basically has the same campaign to landscapers. And why would you get your turf? He told me there was one landscaper who was the worst client he'd ever had, because he'd always ask for a price. If it was $6 a square metre, I can get it down the road for $5.50. So he said, I'd have to drop my pants to $5, and it was just terrible. He said, that guy rang up and said, I want 18 homes worth of grass. I don't care when the grass gets here. I need the 18 cartons of beer by Friday. I've got a party.
There you go. That's his incentive.
Full tariff. No price discount, full tariff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Any other examples? So all different options?
I've only done one in 35 years. I only just done that one. But yeah.
What other one? So didn't you do a broken fence stuff and all that sort of stuff? What are the other?
Yeah, well, that was an interesting one. I mean, look, if you're
the worst fencing, is it? Wasn't that one?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that one up. I would have forgotten about that. That means we've done 2 now in 35 years. That was a fencing contractor in Gosford, and God love him. Again, I was doing a seminar, and he comes up at the end of it and goes, oh, JD, that, everything you say makes sense, but that face page thing, it doesn't work. I went, well, it could be because it's not face page, you idiot. But
it's Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook. So what he was selling is aluminium fences. And so therefore, logically, of course, you'd go for the 30, 35, 40-year-old homes that have got the paling fence falling down. And he put the letterbox drop in their letterbox, and he targeted with Facebook, of course, in the areas that were the older homes. And it just wasn't working. And the reason it wasn't working is because, guess what? He showed a picture of an aluminium fence. So he showed a feature, not the benefit. And underneath the aluminium fence, it told you all about how his father set up the business back in 1842. And so I said to him, look, do you want to get out of the way? And he said, yeah, okay. I said, right up. So we ran the ugliest back fence in Australia contest on Facebook, and areas, of course, that had dilapidated fences, so they were 30-year-old homes. And we showed pictures of all these fences falling down, and we said, look, if you'd like to win an aluminium fence makeover worth X $1,000, and because it cost him next to nothing, then just send a photo of your dilapidated fence into us, and we got them to post it up to a page, and you're in the chance to win. He had 6 months worth of leads in 3 days. We spent $702 on Facebook and had to close the campaign down. But again, he just rejuvenates that campaign every time he wants 6 months worth of leads. So I'd say to anyone who's watching this, think about Facebook advertising a bit differently from what most people do. Give away, if you like, the chance to win your product. We do it all the time. My kitchen renovation companies, for example, we run the ugliest kitchen in Australia contest. So they take a picture of their crappy kitchen.
Same idea.
Exactly. Yep. And they give it to them. We haven't done an ugly husbands one, but anyway.
No.
So therefore they actually give you not just their name and contact details, they give you a photo of their awful kitchen. What sort of lead is that? A pretty warm one. We did one recently for a pool slide company. Obviously they're after people with pools. Pool slide doesn't make much sense for an apartment, I found. But so anyway, they basically ran on Facebook, win a pool slide and a free holiday. And so therefore he had 1,600 leads in a matter of weeks for people who entered to win the pool slide and holiday, gave one away, then rang up the other 1,599 and said to them, look, good news and some bad news. The bad news is you didn't win the pool slide and holiday. The good news is we've got a special deal on the pool slide. If you get it by Friday, we'll give you the holiday.
Conversions.
Bingo. Can I do a Samantha?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Bewitched. Yeah. No one will remember that.
Could you do that in post, whoever's doing this? Just make my nose wiggle? Yeah.
Twinkle.
No, it depends on the age of your audience.
No, they won't. They'll have no idea. Actually,
Samantha.
They did a reboot of it. They did a reboot with Nicole Kidman, wasn't it? Yeah.
They did.
We digress.
We do.
Why don't people do this more often? Is it just not enough outside of the box thinking? Is it lazy? Is it just unaware of how the execution works, or is it too difficult?
I think the perception is it's too difficult, but it's not. I mean, the thing is that, it's nice for people to knock on my door, but you don't have to even get me involved. I mean, if you know that you've got a product or service that has a wide appeal, give away cinema tickets. Don't give away one cinema ticket. That's not good. That's like winning a shoe.
A bit tight. That's a bit tight.
Hey, loser, go to the movie.
Have a left shoe.
Yeah, for two. But the thing is that the mistake that a lot of people make who do this is, and look, there happens to be a Japanese sushi train that gives you points when you eat there, and you save up those points, and guess what? You can use those points to buy more sushi. That's better than nothing, but that would be turbocharged like crazy if they turned that into cinema tickets, okay, or something else.
Something that people actually want.
Yeah, and look, people want more sushi, of course, but the point is that that's the easy way out. I was a member of ADMA, the Australian Direct Marketing Association, for some time, and each year you would go to their Academy Awards, and the campaigns that won the award for the most successful, not the most creative, the most successful, were the ones whereby the incentive had nothing at all to do with the product. Because if you look at McDonald's, what's a toy got to do with a hamburger? Nothing. Kellogg's, what's the toy got to do with cornflakes? But it was a product, it's like it was a bonus, a reward, an incentive that actually met the desire, if you like, of the target audience, pester patter. Mummy, I want a Happy Meal.
Yeah. So you've done quite a few of these yourself, okay? So you've done the consulting on those, but you've also had some initiatives which support incentive-based programs with rewards. What ones have you done? I know you've got one big one that you've been running with for quite a bit, which is around holidays. Can you talk us through the incentive programs you have?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I used to do all the scratch bingos for Murdoch newspapers in Australia. So therefore, back in the 90s and the early 2000s, we had a tidy income from doing all the scratch bingos. Now, that's an incentive. And forget the fact that these days newspapers aren't what they used to be, but in those days he being Murdoch, wanted to increase the circulation of newspapers so he could charge advertisers more money. We would spike the circulation of newspapers like crazy by having the entire city get bingo cards in their letterboxes, and then they'd have to go and buy the Sunday Telegraph and the Daily Telegraph to get the bingo numbers each day and scratch. Again, younger viewers of this will go, newspapers?
No idea,
Exactly, Murdoch. So the thing is that was an artificial wow factor incentive that got you to buy that newspaper.
But mechanics are still the same.
Mechanics are still the same. So, we do a lot of insured price promotions. So therefore we have a relationship with an insurer whereby if you wanted to give away $100,000, you can do that and it'll only cost you $2,000 or $3,000.
And I love this one because I've done one of these before in somewhere I was. A lot of people wouldn't realise, so that when everyone comes out and has on candy or on chocolate or whatever like that, $1 million prize, they're not jumping up $1 million, are they?
No, well, nor does Channel 9 with Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. That's all paid by an insurance company, okay? So when that prize goes off, the insurance company pays it. Now, obviously, they pay a premium based on the difficulty of the questions in a quiz show, so deal or no deal, all that's the same thing. These ones are, we've done it time and time. We had a Fijian resort called the Hideaway Resort, and they were along the Coral Coast. And when the Port Denaroo came along and everyone went to Fiji and just stayed at the Hilton and the Sofitel at Port Denaroo, these guys who lived at Sanctuary Cove but they owned the Hideaway Resort said, JD, they'd been to a few of my song and dance shows, and they said, well, what are we going to do? We're down to 32% occupancy. They're all going to these fancy new places. We're 20 years old. And I said, well, no use of price discounting because people have still got to drive 20 minutes up the Coral Coast to get to your resort, whereas the other ones are near the airport. Why don't you incentivise travel agents to put people into your resort? They went, how do we do that? I said, just have $1 million draw. What? And so I explained to them how it worked. It cost them about 15 grand. And what they did is that we contacted every travel agent on the east coast of Australia, which was where most of the people went to Fiji from. We said, look, for every night that you book someone into our resort versus somewhere, we're going to put you in the draw for the $1 million. Guess what happened when you and your wife went to a travel agent during that period and said, we're going to Fiji.
You got redirected.
They go to Hideaway. They go, we thought the Sofitel, now it's got rabies. Oh, what about the Hilton? Oh, it's got Ebola.
We won't say that.
Yeah. But the thing is that, so therefore, basically they went from 32 to 99% occupancy within 2 weeks, and they stayed there for the entire 3 months of the promotion. Why? Not because of the hotel. The hotel was 20 years old, okay? It was not sexy and new, big and, all the new one. It was because they gave an incentive.
So is that, interestingly, you mentioned a price for that $1 million. Has that changed much over the years? Given insurance has gone up so much, have you done them more recently, those things in insurance?
Yeah, not that much. I mean, we've got a package at the moment we give businesses, which is a $50,000 giveaway, and we package the whole thing together for them for, around about $5,000. Obviously, we've got margin in that. But if people want to go and do it themselves and, go through all the heartache of dealing with the insurance company, you can probably get $50,000 for about 2.5.
Okay.
And you can get $100,000 for around about 5. But keep in mind, and people are probably watching this going, okay, well, what are you talking about? What it is at the end of the month or 2 or 6 months that you run the promotion, then you draw a preliminary draw and you draw out, Betty Bankstown, and then she's invited to go online with a chocolate wheel, and on that chocolate wheel there'll be either 100 or 200 numbers on there. She picks one number, 82, 94, whatever it might be, spins the wheel, and if that comes up her number, she walks away with the money.
And that's how the insurance company is able to factor it, isn't it?
That's it. So it's a probability.
It's like a 1 in 100 chance eventually when it comes down to it.
But the skeptics would be watching this. Oh, okay, so it's definitely not going to win. Well, no, the insurance company is not Mother Teresa. They're not going to give you $100,000 for $5,000.
Yeah.
So there is going to be a probability element.
Yeah.
But you know what? 1 in 100 or 1 in 200 beats Keno or the lotteries, I can tell you.
Well and truly.
And of course, if they don't win the prize, then of course they get a nice consolation prize. You don't want to give them a pencil case because they'll stab you in the eye with a pencil. You've got to give them a nice consolation.
You've got to give them some value. There's got to be a real value.
Yeah, you can't be silly about it.
Yeah, right. So your holiday program. So you do a lot of holiday program stuff, and I know we talk all the time about what you're doing with holidays because that's been, I think you told me, wasn't it? You once told me that the number one incentive of people is what? There's fuel, holidays, and cash.
Yep.
They were the 3 main things that really incentivize and get people to move.
Yep.
And holidays been the big one for you. So how does your holiday stuff work?
We do all 3 of those. In fact, one that blows people away is that we have a package whereby you can give away up to $1 per litre petrol discounts. And I won't bore you with the details now, but I just thought I'd tease you by mentioning that so that if you ever invite me onto one of these again, you go, oh, JD, what about that fuel discount?
You give me a voucher?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly right. But $1 a litre discount. And by the way, it still means that it's equivalent, a cost to the business of a 10% discount.
And that's, I think, the key thing is that this isn't like, the factoring of it is like 10%.
Yeah.
So rather than doing a price discount of 10%, which is nothing. Really, everyone does that. I mean, I don't move for anything less than 40%.
Exactly.
Pretty much. I think we're all accustomed that way now. That's the key thing. That's where the cost of this comes from, isn't it?
Dead right. We manufacture everything, so it's the cost. In other words, the charge that we make is equivalent to a lousy 10% discount. Groupon killed 10%. So why would you keep on? I walk past Westfield style stores from time, 10 or 20% off. Like, what are you smoking?
Who cares?
That's not going to get anyone's attention. So we, fuel discounts, the $1 million giveaways, we do all of that sort of stuff and package it for people. But the thing that probably has proven to me is the number one incentive in the world is a holiday. And the reason that is the case is because it's, sexy for 21-year-old and a 91-year-old. Doesn't matter whether you're male or female. Whereas if you and I were offered a skateboard for buying something, we go, no, we'll give you a microwave. I've already got one, we'll give you a lawnmower. I've already got one.
I'll give you another fridge.
I'll give you another holiday. If I've just come back from Hawaii, I'll give you a hug and say, I'm back again, So you can't get enough holidays. And when I did a campaign some years ago with the Greater Building Society, which was get a home loan, get a free holiday, it added billions of dollars to their home loan portfolio. And I thought, hang on, I'm onto something here. And then, so I formed a relationship with an international travel company that provides us with access to unsold hotel rooms around the world. Most of them are 4-star TripAdvisor. And what happens is that basically we give these holiday vouchers to businesses that are worth up to $1,000. It's a 3 to 7 night holiday. We're talking Sydney, Melbourne, Gold Coast, Cairns, all the hot spots, and then Fiji, Bali, Las Vegas, New York, London, Rome, Paris. You can tell I've said this a few times, can't you? And so therefore, basically we give them vouchers and they get those vouchers for sometimes, $50. And then what happens is that if they've got a $500 product, let's say it's a lawnmower, they say, buy my lawnmower and I'll give you a free voucher for a 3 to 7 nights accommodation holiday. And it's worth up to $1,000, knock yourself out. Now,
so it's cost them $50.
Cost them
$10
$50 being 10% of 500. And I didn't realise you were that fast.
I'm pretty switched on.
Just like that.
You
no wonder you've got your own podcast.
Did you check my math? Yeah, you did. Good.
Conan O'Brien, watch out. This guy's on you. So basically what we do is that we manufacture the incentive to be no more than 10% of the no more than a 10% discount on the sale price. And we say to people, look, again, if you had a $500 product and you said, look, I'm going to give you a 10% discount, you're going to hear crickets in the background. Whereas if you say, look, we've got a hardware store, and this is really interesting. I know you've got to wrap up, but because I am interesting, I thought I'd steal this next 60 seconds. And that is, and you butt in.
I'll just let you run.
You butt in there.
I think we'll do that. We'll do the stats on this. This will be the podcast where I've spoken the less, but keep going. Keep going.
No, what you're supposed to say when I say 60 seconds, make that 30 seconds.
I wound you up. Go.
So therefore it's a hardware store. He's sitting opposite Bunnings. When he had his hardware store in Melbourne, it was in Ocean Grove Hardware in Melbourne. When he had his home hardware store, there was a block of land across the road. Guess what they built across the road? Bunnings. So he's got a 40-ton gorilla across the road, and how he hasn't, sort of jumped off a cliff, I'll never know. And he contacted us and said, listen, this is the big problem. I've got a 40-ton gorilla across the road. So what he does is that we gave him the, holiday program. And so therefore, guess what? He just says, look, spend $1,000 at my store versus, going to Bunnings, and you get a free holiday. And we're talking not 100, not 200, 450% increase, and he's up against a 40-ton gorilla across the road. If he price discounted,
no chance.
Within 5 seconds, they'd be less than him.
Yeah, he'd have no chance.
Yeah.
So how do franchisors use this? Because I know I've introduced you to a handful of franchisors previously, and I don't know, they just don't seem to get their head around it. The holiday thing, which has disappointed me a few times there, because I think I don't know whether it feels too complex or whatever it is there, but it's the mechanics of it, I think. How would you
the mechanics are
advise them?
simple. I mean, basically they just, press the green button and it happens. There's no need for any sort of involvement from them. We make it pretty easy. But even put me aside from it, just talk about incentives in general and why most franchisors don't use it. AI, okay, and Glenn and I were having a chat just before we did this, and I was saying, look, AI is completely useless if you don't have the big idea. If you don't, because if you just say to AI, look, I happen to be a hardware store, or I'm a lawn mowing company.
What should I do?
Yeah, what should I do? Give me a marketing plan. It'll come out with the generic motherhood marketing plan, find your target audience and make sure you cost effectively reach them on social media, do organic posts and paid advertising, blah, blah, blah. It will never give you the big idea. It will never give you the Happy Meal toy big idea.
And big idea explodes sales.
Exactly. And so therefore the thing is that you can rave about AI and that's fantastic. It's just a faster version than a Google search, unless you have the big idea. And that's, my company used to be called, the Dynamic Ideas Company, but the acronym DIC was not good, so we changed it to the Institute. So the thing is that where we deliver, I think something that's a bit different is the big idea. And most franchisors, and that's no disrespect to them because obviously they're very successful, they've got a franchise business, but I think a lot of the times they may not have access to resources that provide big ideas. And so they tend to just do
Get a bit blinkered?
Yep. And I can tell you right now that you can visit any restaurant or any franchisor, bricks and mortar franchisor today and buy whatever they've got, and they will never get your details. Okay. So,
I won't build a list of people.
McDonald's don't have any clue who goes into McDonald's. KFC has no clue. Now, they will argue they've got an app.
Yes.
Okay, but for anyone over 45, well, forget it, We have a restaurant in Melbourne called the Lobster Cave. He's up to 92,000 now in his database because a few years ago he said to me, JD, I'm spending $500,000 on media. How do I get that down? I said, well, just shut it down completely. We can increase your business substantially by you offering your waitresses 50 cents for every name and contact detail they get from people in the restaurant. Because you can go to any restaurant in the world tonight and spend $500 and they'll let you leave and won't even ask who you are. It's nuts.
Unless you're booking through a third-party app like OpenTable or something like that, and then they own the data.
But this particular guy, Bill Ferg, his name is, and anyone watching this in Melbourne are probably familiar with the Lobster Cave at Beaumaris. It's a very upmarket restaurant. There's only BMWs and Mercedes parked outside. And what happens now is that when let's say you and I went there for lunch, then at the end of the lunch, the girl would put a little name and address coupon, not an app, a name and address coupon with a pen, and she'll stay there because she's going to get 50 cents and 50 cents. And she said, how would you like to win dinner for 10 of your friends at the end of the month? Just fill the form in. Name, email, and mobile. The main thing is the mobile. And so what he does with that, of course, is that every afternoon at 3:00, he just tells his long-suffering secretary, because he showed me one day when I was there, he said, JD, let me show you how this thing works, because I dreamt it up, of course. And I gave him a number of text message, templates, and she comes in and she's got a tablet, and he says, how many of the 180 seats have we got booked tonight? It's 3:00. She goes, 72. Better send out JD's text message number 4, and that is Chef Pierre would like to invite you and your wife tonight for a special lobster tail meal for 2 for $68. You're not going to leave less than 204. That's the average, 204. Bottle water there's
Their spend,
$25, right?
yeah.
So therefore, did I say bait and switch? Anyway, actually for seafood, yeah. So so therefore that
You're
goes
laughing
out.
at your own jokes. Yeah.
I'm so clever. So anyway, she'll send out 1,000 of them, let's say, and she'll come in 10 minutes later. No billboard advertising, no Facebook, no LinkedIn, no social media. She'll 10 minutes later and says, I just sent out 1,000 text messages. We're booked out. He does that every afternoon. He's the only restaurant in the world that's full 364 nights a year, and he would be on the 365, but he closes on Christmas Day. And he's the only restaurant in the world that collects data.
You reckon they've got to be? There's others, but I know what your point is.
No, I've been to every restaurant in the world.
I know you have.
Yeah, I'm old.
That's your mantra. All right, there's so much here. I'm going to put some details in if someone wants to chat. By all means, please contact JD, have a talk about any of these strategies and that and how we can help you out. But thank you so much for your wisdom, mate. It was a great chat again, and no doubt we could talk for hours and hours and hours about this sort of stuff as we sometimes do. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And that's it again for another episode of the Franchise Everything podcast. If you want to see more of this, please comment, subscribe, do all that sort of stuff. Tell your friends about it, share it around. And if you want to get in contact with JD, please do. And we'll see you in the next one soon.